Welcome back to the Dear Katie podcast. This is Katie Koestner. I am the primary host of the Dear Katie podcast, and we are so delighted to have you take this journey with us on our weekly podcast episodes. I just want to remind everyone to do great self-care. Thriving is part of the purpose of this podcast, and we definitely want you to take a break at any time. Warm bath, fresh air, walk a dog, have a bite of chocolate, whatever you need to do good care for yourself. Just as a reintroduction, if you're not familiar with me, I am the woman who was on the cover of Time magazine at age 18 as the first in history to speak out nationally and publicly as the victim of date rape. And HBO made a film about me, and I went on to become the executive director of the Take Back the Night Foundation. We are the oldest, largest global movement on sexual violence in all forms for all people in the world. So we encourage you to visit our website for lots more information. So I'm going to turn it over to our host and our guest for today. Hi, everybody. This is Katie Koestner. Welcome back to the Dear Katie podcast. As all of you know, our self-care journeys are incredibly important. Throughout this session, as you know, just push pause, take a break at any time, do excellent self-care. You are all going to be so thrilled and delighted with Dr. Jennifer Freed, my special guest today. I want to read a little bit about her bio and experience, and then we have so much to talk to each other about. And we're going to talk about some of the, some of the most important modalities out there of healing that is maybe not many people know about. And luckily, Dr. Freed is outstanding. So here we go. Dr. Jennifer Freed has more than 40 years as a depth psychologist, a social emotional trainer, and astrologer. She's an author and a certified EMDR expert and national consultant. With a PhD in psychology, in addition to her expertise as an astrologer, Jennifer Freed is here to show you how to decode and tap into your gifts in this practical guide to life. She explains how your astrological birth chart can point you in toward the life you want, and offers self-assessments to pinpoint your most effective strategies. Jennifer also co-founded and led the Santa Barbara nonprofit AHA for over 20 years. This organization is dedicated to helping teens, families, and educators feel safe, seen, and celebrated. Oh my goodness. Dr. Freed, I am so excited about all the things you have accomplished. So I think where I would like to start is really helping our listeners understand what EMDR therapy really is, because some of them might want to try it. So let's start there. Can you explain and our listeners range from obviously 13 and 14 to, 100 years old. So they're all over the range with their backgrounds and experiences.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say it's been my honor and privilege to study with Laurel Parnell of the Parnell Institute to learn EMDR and to become certified. And currently, I've retired from my profession as an EMDR therapist. I'm no longer a therapist. I'm only an educational coach. But for me, EMDR, the way Laurel Parnell has been teaching it, is the single best tool I've ever experienced or practiced to help people overcome trauma. So what is it? It's a behavioral technique that helps people identify trauma, either through events or even belief systems, intervene in that trauma with a very measured protocol, and help people have agency around putting that trauma into perspective. So it's a therapeutic approach. It has a specific protocol that I can't get into because of the details of it.
Right.
But it is super practical, very measurable, and very effective in my experience of doing it for 20 years as a therapist and receiving it as a client for that length of time too.
Let's just talk about a few of the things that you mentioned just now. So it's an experiential sort of treatment. I think to differentiate, it's not like just talking and having a conversation with a psychologist. That's correct?
No, it does involve conversation, but it also involves working with the right and left hemisphere of the brain through tapping or eye motion or even ear sounds. But what they've noticed over all these years in doing the research is when you have a conversation that's very organized around decreasing trauma and you accompany it with the right left bilateral stimulation, people are able to metabolize trauma and move through it really effectively.
Yeah, I like how you said metabolized trauma. That sounds delicious. um, because it sounds doable. You're making this possible treatment sound very accessible and doable. So I'll just ask you a few more questions as if I was exploring this idea with you for our listeners. The first one that comes to mind before we get into exactly what goes on is how prevalent is this practice all over the country?
It's all over the world. It's
All over the world.
very embedded in every single crisis situation that you hear about in the world. There are EMDR therapists. Then in private practice, there are EMDR therapists. Anyone can find one. If you go to Laurel Parnell Institute, she has a great list of people that have been certified in the USA at least.
Okay. So it's accessible. Most of our listeners are truly globally located, so that's helpful if they decide this is something they want to try. And the next question is, we have predominantly our listeners have gone through trauma related to sexual violence or abuse. Some also then have struggled with substance use and addictions, eating disorders and other, I'll say, types of trauma. So is this EMDR good with any and all? Do you?
It is absolutely applicable for all those things you just named.
Mm-hmm.
You have to talk to your practitioner to make sure you're eligible and available for the treatment. I would never give a global diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
So, can it treat all those things?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But one has to be interviewed and do a proper intake to know what is the best trauma treatment for that person.
Okay, excellent. And that kind of initial intake could be done by any trained psychologist?
Well, any trained marriage family therapist or psychologist or psychiatrist that's had the EMDR training. You want to make sure they're certified because
Mm-hmm.
it does take quite a long time to become proficient at that particular type of therapy.
Okay, great. Now here's another question. Can it be done on a Zoom, or is it
Yes, we
only in
had to
person?
figure that out through the pandemic. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
my colleagues absolutely had great success with EMDR on Zoom. Everyone had to pivot and learn how to do it, and they did.
Excellent. And is there any special equipment or surroundings, or is there anything else that's needed to do it?
Again, the
Because you mentioned
practitioner,
tapping.
yeah, the practitioner will tell you if you can utilize a specific instrument or not, because you can also tap yourself,
Mm-hmm.
left, right. But I would not ever speak for another professional and
Mm-hmm.
say what's needed. So is it something very elaborate you'll need? Never.
Okay.
Anyone can get it or do it. But again, make sure you're with the right clinician. I think when we've been traumatized, we're normally fearful of authority because it often involves misguided or abusive authority that we've been traumatized.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important that you trust, respect, and ask all the questions you can before starting a therapeutic journey with a clinician.
Mm-hmm. That's excellent advice. I completely agree. And so here's my next one that I can imagine all of our listeners, wanting to understand. Is it can you do this in short chunks of 20 minutes? Is it a 2 hour? How long
Great
is a
question.
typical?
Most people do an intake of 60 to 90 minutes and then follow that up with 60 to 90-minute sessions.
Okay. So time commitment is important. The next one is at the end of this, each 60 to 90-minute session, will someone feel tired? How might they feel? Could they go back to work? Could they go pick up their kids? You know what I mean? Like, how are they going to?
Great question. Yeah. Uh, when I was a therapist practicing with people, I'd always find out what are their concerns and then make sure the session adhered to what their need was after the session. So let's say you were going to pick up kids, we wouldn't take you right to the 60-minute and total rehashing trauma. A good therapist knows how to close down a session, so you should feel just fine.
Excellent. That's heartening as well, Dr. Freed. I really think that makes it at least feel more accessible. Because we, on my podcast, we've talked to lots of different kind of therapists and ways of thinking about healing from trauma. So the next thing I heard you say that was fascinating was bringing in the two sides of the brain as one of the key parts of this process. Is that accurate? Is it built off the idea that our brains have two sides?
Well, we have two hemispheres of the brain. That's a fact, the left and the right. The right tends to process feeling, and the left tends to process ideas or thoughts. And in trauma, often we get stuck and start looping, and we don't have access to the integration of the left and right sides of our brain. So we're stuck in obsessive thinking or stuck in engrossing feelings that we can't seem to get out of. And what you need to do to repair the trauma circuit is integrate and have the ability to think through and feel and move beyond. And EMDR is particularly good at that.
That sounds amazing. So let me ask then this. If we have the connection, and when you kind of said this looping of rehashing and, getting stuck almost, I'm trying to think of how that might feel or look to different people. Is that like a recurring nightmare? Is that if I walk into a room and smell smoke because my perpetrator smoked heavy duty cigarettes? Like, is it
any unwanted repeating thought or feeling? Any unwanted repeating thought or feeling?
Okay, so that's interesting. So it's almost possible to rewire how that cigarette smells with this therapy. That's fascinating. That's fascinating.
What I've experienced myself, having worked through trauma with EMDR, is you still can objectively remember what happened, but you don't have the saturated, troubling response to that memory.
Is it a distillation of the trauma, or am I not thinking of it correctly? I'm thinking,
You know what? I cannot break this down for you as much as I would like to.
Yeah, no problem.
This is for you to go to the therapy and have your own experience. But I would just simply say that I've studied over 40 years, probably 25 different types of therapy to help people move through trauma. And this has been singularly the best, most effective modality.
That's incredible. So what you're doing right now is, are you training others in your daily work, or?
Actually, I am retired now from being a therapist. So no, I'm not training therapists. My partner is training therapists because we both learned this together over 20 years. So she is training therapists, and she's brilliant at it. And she has two groups of supervisees that she trains. But my work, as you mentioned in the beginning, has gone deeply into coaching and working with astrology, and I'm a best-selling author. So my work shifted a lot when I became 60 years old, out of therapeutic modalities into more spiritual, evolving personal development modalities.
I love that. I think I'm kind of sensing, we've never met each other, but I like how you've conquered or feel like I've done a lot and I'm good here. And then you decide you can move it in another direction. Are they related in any way, this, current work?
Absolutely. So here's what I would say to you that I'm passionate about. It's not what's happened to us that should define us. It's how we responded to it. So my passion now is working with people that are very much in the contribution part of their lives. They've done the work, they've done the therapy, or they're currently in therapy, but that's not my job anymore. My job is to say, how are you delivering your gifts in this world? And how can I hold you accountable to all your talents and gifts? And I
Mm.
use the astrology chart to really pinpoint what's unique about that person's contributions and gifts versus everyone else on the planet. Because a good astrology chart will tell you, wow, you're
Oh my.
extremely good at this. And it also shows where people have been wounded and hurt. But I know I'm a perfect case example, and I have many, many friends that are great examples of if you do the work, your past does not define you, it inspires you.
Yeah, I think that's so perfect, Dr. Freed, because that's how I'm here right now. I mean, our listeners know a little bit, but I don't know if you read much. My own, and I only usually slip in a little bit about myself on these interviews, but what you just said really resonates with me, because one of my things is, when went through that major incident at age 18, I was like, first of all, I was like, why me? And then to process my trauma, it became, okay, it happened. I can't change that. I can only move forward and figure out what to do with it. And figuring out what to do with it became a constant effort in policies and speeches and all the things you talked about. And I love that you're doing that work with other people. And I also really liked how you hold people accountable to use their talents. That's a magnificent line. How can you give? I mean, I think our listeners. How could you hold our listeners accountable to get
Well,
up
I'll
and
give you a
go?
couple. I'll
Yeah.
give you a couple of examples because now my work is coaching people and going into a deep dive about what's in their way of delivering their gifts. So
Mm-hmm.
I have one friend who's a spiritual healer and a client who's a friend as well. And I coach her, and one of her biggest desires was to bring her teaching to groups, but she was really shy and insecure, as we all can be when we haven't done something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've coached her and held her accountable to setting that date of the first group, for making sure she enrolled people, and for ultimately doing the group, which she loves.
Yay.
Yeah, I have another friend again who is extremely talented in the public sphere. She's quite famous, but she hadn't done one part of her career yet that she was very intimidated about. Fearful. We're all fearful when we don't know or we've been hurt. So I've been working with her to branch out into this other part of her career that she so badly wanted to do, but had always been too timid, too fearful to do it. And so, with my help and keeping her accountable, she has now done it.
Do you think those are fabulous examples? So, just two quick questions. You've referenced two individuals. Do you ever work with entire groups, like at a corporation, or
Yeah,
is
of
it mostly
course.
one on
Yes.
one? Oh, you do
No,
both.
no, I've done everything. I
Hmm.
enjoy my chart. My astrology chart is particularly amazingly gifted with groups.
Oh,
So
good.
I've been leading groups and organizations since I was 19, and I've never stopped. And
Awesome.
so I do lots of works with corporate executive teams or, individual businesses. So I like a variety. So I do individual coaching, group coaching, I hold conferences and retreats, and that's my life now.
That's fantastic life. Um, Next question about the link to the astrology chart. I wish I knew more. I had a sister who knew a lot, and if she had lived, I know I would learn more from her. She once gave me the Big Book of Birthdays.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's a good one.
Yeah, I look that up every time.
It's a
Dr.
good
Freed,
one.
like
Yeah.
seriously, I read my own in there, and I was like, that's exactly me. Like I was shocked. It was like the day of taken opportunity, and I think that was my birthday.
Well,
That
just
was
just for your listeners that are
yeah.
familiar with astrology or skeptics, it takes, and I'm not exaggerating, a full year, like beginning Spanish, to even master the basics.
Oh my goodness.
It takes at least 5 years of massive study, incredible attention to detail. It takes math, it takes mythology, it takes some science in order to do an actual astrology reading, not what you get
Wow.
on Instagram with like little quotes or things like that. So when you're looking at somebody's birth chart, you're
Mm-hmm.
looking at a map to their soul, which is the name of one of my books, A Map to Your Soul. And in order to do that well, you have to be somebody that has actually done the amount of study and practice that a therapist has done to work
Wow.
in psychotherapy.
Do you find when you do this deep dive into someone's astrology, what would you profile or I'm as I'm listening, I'm also thinking that sounds like accountability. It was written in the stars. It was like you have to do this. It's you
Well,
were made for this, right? What was I made
well,
for? The song.
I, I call it your divine possibilities.
Mm,
Every one of us has a soul map that we choose because we have free will to bring to its highest level of application, or we choose to become addicted or dramatic or
mm,
etc. And we don't fulfill on our gifts. We choose. I
mhm.
have plenty of examples of people that have gone through more pervasive trauma than I could even bear to listen to. It's so bad.
Mm. Oh
One
gosh.
client I had was raped by 15 different family members.
Oh my goodness.
And she taught me about resilience, joy, love, and compassion. I know for a fact anyone with help and dedicated practice of their own spiritual resilience can become quite something in this lifetime. I've seen it. I've seen other people with garden variety family neurosis and pain totally screw up their life.
Mm,
So, my biggest message to the people listening is survivor, yes, thriver, better.
hmm we yes, completely. That the one of the mantras we use on the podcast is, together we are stronger and we can thrive, and we're not alone in this journey.
No,
What do you think about that idea? We do talk a lot about not being alone, and you've painted quite a gorgeous picture of both the groups that you've worked with as well as the individuals who are then working with groups and finding those connections. How important would it be to, I don't know, in the work that they're doing, the people who you've helped, are they bringing up their trauma, or is it not part of what they do? How do
it
they have a
completely
relationship?
depends.
Oh,
It
everyone's
completely
different.
depends. Yeah, of course. And that's very much to be respected. And again, astrology teaches us this. Some people are much more private, they don't
Mm-hmm.
want to talk about it, that's not their way. Other people need to really express what's happened to them and tell people about it. I never have a one size fits all for recovery from trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe, however, one of my stances is you must be in some type of community to get accurate mirroring and feedback.
Mm-hmm.
If you're only listening to yourself or a therapist, you're in a bubble. And it may be that some people need that for some period of time. But ultimately, to re enter society as a thriver, you need to be in communities that both love you and challenge you because the world isn't a therapy office.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got
I like it.
empathy and people listen to you endlessly and they really understand you and they care. That's not the world. The world's
Mm-hmm.
a rough place. And so
Yes.
you want to find groups of people that both love you and challenge you, and they're not perfect, you're not perfect, but you can all work on it together.
And I like that they challenge you. That's so important. The word that I just thought of is the coddling. I think I read something about the coddling of the American child,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I'm very worried that there's got to be a balance between what we I won't say tolerate, but what we classify as a good push, a good level of stress or discomfort versus an unhealthy one, right? So somewhere there's the best of both, and maybe it's a combination of both.
Of course it is, but for me, don't teach people to adhere to their frailty.
I like that was much better said than I said it. Adhering to frailty, or the poor me's, right?
But yes, of course, you know, it isn't again what happened to you, it's what you do about it.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone has a story. The stories are legitimate. I never minimize the feelings with the story, but you have one single life to live. What kind of a story do you want to be telling, and how does it make you feel?
Mm-hmm. I like thinking about us as either creators or consumers, and the only kind of consuming I want to do is consuming ideas and experiences, to grow,
Yeah,
because then you're
agreed.
a better creator if you can, and it seems like you've scoped that out. So then that reads, how do you stay fresh yourself? Is it all the different groups now you're working with whom you're working, or is it, do you have other ways to keep growing and
Yes,
expanding?
yes.
You look
Well,
like you're constantly in the movement.
no, I'm not at all.
No.
That's a good mirage.
Okay.
I will only coach two people a day now,
Oh.
and I spend an hour and a half to 2 hours a day in spiritual, physical, emotional discipline. So I can't do the work I do or actually have such a happy, joyful life without doing my spiritual practices. And that starts early in the day. And I do a number of things, which include visualizations, movement energy called Qigong,
Mhm.
writing letters of gratitude to the divine of my knowing, doing a series of um, exercises for the body around flexibility. Every single day I get exercise. I mean, to keep this going,
You look great, Jennifer.
to keep it
You said you're
going.
60. I don't believe you.
No, I'm 66.
Oh,
Now I'm
now I
68.
don't believe you one bit.
Well, what I'm saying is I think that people often get it backwards. I'll be happy when, and my learned experiences, I make myself happy every day. I finish my hour and a half, and I start usually at 6, if not 7 a.m.
Whoa.
So, but I'm not, right, look, I'm 66. The kids are out of the house. It's a big difference, and I want to acknowledge that because
Thank you.
I really want your listeners to know that joy is usually not from the outside first. And it doesn't mean I'm always joyful. I feel sad, I feel angry, I feel frustrated. But when I do those exercises every day, I never miss a day, it's for my own well being. It's not like somebody made me do this.
Yeah, I think I can see it on your face too. I feel like it's such a happiness that it's a luxury that you have that time. And I'm grateful you acknowledge that, because some of our listeners certainly don't. They're listening to
No,
us on their
I didn't,
commute.
didn't have that time before.
Well, but now it's a glorious, time that you are using it, and I feels like you're growing even stronger because you have it, and more able to help in a very focused, driven, clear, successful way, and not feeling. I also hear you saying I take on two clients a day, but I think you don't feel like I'm missing out. Like you wish you had four. I feel like you're, how some people think I need to do more and more and more and more. But you seem very content and happy with that pace, and the way you're working with them. It feels very joyful, if that
Well,
makes sense.
thank you for noticing that because I'm mentoring a lot of young women right now that are the alpha ambitious types, which a
Mhm.
lot of us have been. And I keep wanting to reiterate to you and to everyone that there is no end to that.
Mm.
So the journey is the journey. There's no one day I'll be happy when. So it's important for me, and it is true, that every day I'm savoring. absolutely savoring because I have a balance in life that I worked really hard for, and I appreciate it. And I love my work. Like, not just like, I never want to retire from this work. I love it.
Then maybe it's not so much work. It's just life. It's just this beautiful thing called life, and you're able to give back so much. So what I guess that's I'm so glad that you came on the podcast. I want to hear what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years then. Same, or will you try anything else?
Oh no, I'm always a big let's try something new.
What's on your next to-do
Well,
list?
I want to mention that my partner and I started this nonprofit that we're still consulting with called
Oh, right,
ahasb.org.
right, right.
And we have dedicated our lives to helping teenagers, parents, and educators find healthy relationships and learn how to reduce prejudice and
Mm,
actually have a joyful self-expression that's positive. So that work will continue. My coaching will continue. I'd like to write a screenplay about my grandmother, the spy, or at least be part of writing that screenplay.
that sounds lovely.
I
Was she
think
a
I'm
real
going to do
spy?
it. My grandmother was a spy for J. Edgar Hoover back in 1940 in New York City and dated the head of the Nazi Party, wrote a book on Hitlerism, and turned in the leader of the Nazi Party and stopped the Nazi movement in New York City at that time.
That's definitely needs to be written. Jennifer, that's got to be done. That sounds perfect. That's got all
Yes.
the makings of all the best movies. That could be a movie
Well,
for
that's what
sure.
I'm trying to write the screenplay, but I'm not a screenplay writer, so I'm looking for my perfect partner to do that with, but there's a story to tell. And I am a person like many of your listeners that wants to keep exploring the fullness of life and not get more contracted. So, yes, screenplay, why not?
I think
I'm going
it's
to be,
fascinating. I
yeah.
think one thing I just this is something you and I could talk about. I was watching a movie, and it was based on a book, and I was thinking, my goodness, to take that book and think about how to keep the tension on the screen, and you so that you don't always know what's going to happen next, and carry two plot lines or too tight, like it's very complicated, but it sounds really fun. It sounds like a big three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. Like, where do we put this piece and that piece? And I can imagine your brain works exactly like that.
It does, but I will need somebody that knows what they're doing because
Mhm.
I have a deep appreciation for people that have spent years in their field. And I am so not familiar with the structure of a screenplay. I don't want to start from square one. I'd like to collaborate.
Well, one thing I don't think I've mentioned this either, but one thing I'd like to do always is, you get there, there's some pride, and I figured it out all by myself. But the older I get, I'm like, I'd like to talk to the five best humans who've worked in this field, and then try it again. Like, if you can cut to some of the best ways of thinking, or most interesting ones, you can sometimes, you could come up with more, or just decide to partner. I
Well,
think
that
partner.
reminds me. Oh,
Mm,
sorry. I don't want to
I was going to
interrupt.
say partnering is a an art of trust, though.
Oh, yes. I do want to add one more piece about the next years for me. I think the most underrated piece of our world right now is preserving the wisdom of elders and the reverence
Mm,
for elders. And since I'm an elder and there's no going back, I really want to help, especially young women, because I'm a woman, learn how to access elder wisdom. I think the biggest mistake I made when I was young, and the biggest mistake I see young people making, is not believing that older people have something that's of value. And I think it's an enormous loss to our culture. And I think the youth obsessed image culture is a direct result of devaluing our elders. And
mm-hmm.
I have wrinkles, I have splotched skin, I have hanging body parts. My soul knows some things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Plus you have a great smile. Don't sell yourself short, Jennifer. I would just remind our listeners another way we could think and honor what Dr. Free just said is I went to Kenya and I lived in Japan when I lived in Japan for 3 months when I was 16. And many other cultures don't treat their elders like we do. They're really respected and live in the home and become, I remember when I lived in Japan, I was like one of the last, I wasn't the last to get the bath. It's the same water. We're all in the same water. And the elders always get to go, elder man always went first. But it's a hierarchy and a belief, and we need to respect where we came from and learn from that wisdom. And it's a more quiet, thoughtful, mindful way to think. That the whole experience felt that way instead of just rush, rush, rush. So let's see, playwright, you will be, or screenplay. I want to go back before we close, though, with astrology, just because, again, I like to get our listeners going in new directions after each episode. Like, what else could I try? And certainly, the EMDR, I think, sounds wonderful. And there's probably books. You didn't write a book about it, or you did?
No, but I
I
did
was going to.
not. However, I have two books your listeners would love. Um,
Okay.
Use Your Planets Wisely and A Map to Your Soul. And if they got both those books and played with them, because they're very accessible, they will learn a lot about themselves that they are going to be thrilled to learn. And in my second book, A Map to Your Soul, there is a whole chapter that talks about trauma and post-traumatic growth. So I
Perfect.
recommend it. Yeah.
We always recommend the books of our guests, but and we also now, for our listeners, if you haven't checked it out, we are launching the Katie Collective, like little bookstore, and like great, amazing things for that part too. What should we put in if they want to learn more specifically about astrology? Any ideas?
Well, I think go to my website,
Yeah.
jenniferfree.com. There's a
Okay.
lot there that they can learn from and find out about. And I would say that's a good start. If they're really curious, these days you can just put in astrology in Google and you will find a million things. But I think I would start with me only because I have the PhD in psychology and I'm an internationally certified astrologer, so my credibility is pretty high in terms of the information I'm putting out.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it has been a delight, um, Dr. Freed, to host you and to talk with you and learn so much in such a finite space and time. But I'm excited too. I'm going to go get that birthday book out of my downstairs again and take another look at. I don't know if I know as I sometimes forget about it, and then I'll go, oh, I need to know what that that person's birthday is.
Yeah.
So fun, fun, fun. Well, is there anything else other than we will absolutely link to your website? Do you have any upcoming events or anything else that we should know
Well,
about?
there's one more thing which will sell out fast as soon as it's advertised. I'm doing a luxury retreat with some other teachers in Crete, Greece, in September of 2025. But that
Okay.
will be listed on my website when it comes out, which should be in the next month or two.
Oh,
So it
good.
will be there.
Okay.
Anyway, but I want to say thank you to you and your listeners for making it so important to get past the hurt into a vital life, into a loving life, into a courageous life. And that's what you stand for. That's why I wanted to come on, because I know and believe that we all can make something out of the awful pain and make something beautiful. I believe that.
I completely agree with you. And I am so glad you're doing all the work you are doing and will constantly follow. Wish I could come to Crete in 2025. That
You
sounds
never
fantastic.
know.
I'm going to check it out myself. Um,
Okay.
yes, absolutely. And for our listeners, as always, please continue to tune in, listen in, take the journey. Resources are bountiful on the website and the Take Back the Night site. Find an event, find a new community. We now have over 1,400 events happening all over the planet. So find one that suits your fancy, or take a trip and go see a new place and meet some new amazing folks. So together we will thrive, survive. I like thrive best after today. Take care. Thank you again, everybody, for joining another episode of the Dear Katie podcast. I hope very much you found today's episode helpful, empowering, and a way to take another step in that long journey toward healing and supporting those we care about, learning about sexual violence prevention, and also survivor support. For those of you who don't know, again, the Take Back the Night website has tons of great resources, books, self-care options, cool merch. If you're feeling like you need a wearable, we have great t-shirts. Of course, we would love it if you follow along on our free newsletter with news and events going on around the country and even around the globe. And finally, don't forget to like us and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You'll find our entire community popping up here and there, and recaps of our podcast episodes as well. So together we shatter the silence, and together we end the violence. Take care.